It's time to preview the ACC, and we have our own Eric McLean here with us. And, William, too. We have him here. We're more excited about having the ACC's very own Eric here.
That's okay. The
intro, can I just talk about the intro? That was sick. I don't know who made it. I don't know where you got it. I'm jealous. I need some of that action. That was great.
Our guy Tyler made that for us. So
come on, Tyler. Let's go.
He did a great job with it. He sent that to me, and this was like back in May, and I was like, okay, I'm ready to go. I don't care. I'm not ready, but let's start recording.
That's right. And then I want a disclaimer, since this is the ACC preview, I'm not wearing a Clemson shirt today. I want people to know that I'm not biased. I'm going to be as straight and narrow as I can.
And I will say you are wearing the appropriate colors because we represent the entire country, coast to coast, baby. Let's go.
All Coast Conference.
Daggone right.
Yeah, let's start there with that because, Stanford and Cal are joining, as you politely corrected me, that they haven't officially joined the conference.
August 1st, right?
That's right. August something. I don't know what the day is, but
they're on Pacific time, so that they're delayed. Pacific time.
Exactly. They're on Pacific time. It doesn't matter. But SMU, Cal, and Stanford joined this year. Let's start with that. How weird is it that now you're going to be covering the entire country and then you might have to go to Palo Alto for a Stanford game? And B, do you think it's going to be an issue when traveling? Because Cal, I think it's supposed to go like some insane amount of miles.
24,000 miles, 500 miles short of the circumference of the entire Earth.
My God.
And then
first of all, you're a nerd. You're a nerd.
No, shout out Josh Pate. Shout out Josh Pate. I saw that one here.
Oh, okay. Pate State. Come on,
Pate State material right there.
I'll give you there.
I love that. Jake, I think what's interesting about that, just to specifically hit on that last point there, we talked to Coach Wilcox, and those will come out here in about a month, kind of in the late July, August realm. And we kind of brought that up, and he was so nonchalant about it. He said, listen, guys, we're going to pack a little more water. We're going to pack a little more Gatorade, and let's go. We're fine. It's all good. We got these nice planes.
I love it.
So he's not worried at all. I think travel will change a little bit. Maybe you adjust it by a day or so just to get acclimated, get used to it. And maybe you come in on like a Thursday night. You're there all day Friday, play Saturday type of thing. But Stanford, same thing. Like nobody seems to be super intrigued. Now, I do think it will be an issue with the Olympic sports with the midday stuff or midweek stuff. I think that'll be a real issue. But I've heard whispers that the ACC is going to be creative. Maybe everybody meets up in Dallas and have like a round robin tournament or something like that, where we get a lot of games kind of played in one kind of setting. So we'll see. That'll be fascinating. And then just the time hour difference. You talk about scheduling is already chaotic, but now when I have to do math, and that's a scary thing in my head of what time am I sending this person that I want to do this interview? That is a little interesting and intriguing. So, but we welcome it, man. All Coast Conference. Let's get it going.
Well, speaking of Dallas, didn't they just roll out the red carpet for you and the ACC Network crew?
They did. Oh, let me put
more Southern Methodist University. There you go.
They did the ACC, so you can do horns down. SEC, we're not sure yet.
I've heard that it's like a little relaxed kind of bunny ear. I'm doing balloons. I don't know. We're getting outside of our wheelhouse, but that was sick. Just to see that, to welcome them. We did a big show at this bar called The Happiest Hour, and we should have tripled the venue. It was packed wall to wall. I think there was 2,500 people there. The excitement, the energy, just the level of enthusiasm was amazing. And
don't sleep on SMU.
No, please don't, because they've got a lot of players. They got a lot of players coming back. I think they're top 7 pass catchers, top 3 running backs. Quarterback that was on fire before he broke his leg was I think it was 16-1 touchdown to interception ratio going into the end of the season. So he's a beast, and that defense was electric too. So SMU is ready to join.
What they have?
They're coming.
They also have boosters, and they have lots of money that they are willing to spend. And
they are investing in that program.
When are they going to start making money in the ACC? Because they're buying in with no return of investment for the first few years, if I understand correctly.
Let me just tell you this. I don't know if this is some article somewhere, but I heard whisperings about this, that there was a certain booster in a meeting that they were either it was internal or the ACC was a part of it. And, they said, what if we just don't take any of the TV money, take a limit, whatever it is. And everybody's kind of like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And they're like, oh, well, it'll only be $200 million. And the guy's like, oh, yeah, I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about that. And I'm just like, what are you talking about? So there's some big time money. I mean, we're talking about at that bar with all those fans. I mean, there were multiple billionaires with a B hanging out there. So
Texas P, baby, it pays off.
Money's not an object out in Dallas.
Good.
Yeah. I'm real curious about SMU because they just feel like, I mean, everybody knows the story of, the 80s with Eric Dickerson, and Craig James.
Yeah.
And it just feels like that they've been on the verge, and now that NIL is existing, they were already doing it in the 80s, and now they can just legally do it. And now that you've got revenue sharing coming, like this is just like a program that's ready to explode. And it wouldn't shock me within the next couple of years if they're in an ACC championship.
Right. And I mean, you're seeing that right now in recruiting too. I mean, 4-star after 4-star after 4-star.
You got 2 last week.
Like every time I jump on Twitter, they're flipping somebody or they're getting another big commitment that, it's just one of those things. I mean, Texas is a football rich state. We all know that. Dallas specifically has so much talent, all that high school football in that triangle area right now that before, they had to leave. They had to go somewhere else. They couldn't represent their hometown to, accomplish goals of potentially playing in a big dog championship or a national championship. Well, now you can. And they're selling that. And Coach Lashley is a genius. That offense is so fun to watch. And playmakers want to be a part of it. So I'm right there with you, Jake. I think that this is a team, I don't know if quite sleeping giant, but look out. Look out.
It kind of reminds me a little bit of when Tom Herman was at Houston because he got Ed Oliver to stay home. He was able to keep Houston kids at Houston. And it's if Rhett Lashley can keep Dallas kids in Dallas, like he doesn't need to go anywhere else. There's going to be enough talent around the city of Dallas that if you can convince kids to stay home, like they're going to have a talented team forever.
Yeah, to go back to that point, like 5-star, if you can get a 5-star quarterback to stay at SMU, to stay in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, that's when they're going to take that next step. That's going to be the next big step for them because, they've been competing with decent competition. Conference USA is not a joke, but it's not big boy football quite yet. Now they're in the ACC, and they're going to be able to get these bigger targets more consistently, as you've seen. Like Mac was saying, with week after week, they're flipping guys and getting guys. As Michael Jordan said, the ceiling is the roof. I mean, they've got they've got unlimited
ACC's own Michael Jordan.
That's right. That's right.
ACC legend. No, I'm right there with you, man. And again, I think, the natural and kind of normal from a, 30,000 foot perspective or from an outsider perspective is, okay, when a G5 team moves, what's the biggest concern? The lines of scrimmage, offense and defensive lines.
Yeah.
They felt like they had a power 4 offensive line last year. That's why they were so successful. That's why they were able to have 3, 500-yard rushers who really did their thing up front. So they feel fine at that standpoint. They added a couple of guys from Arkansas and I think maybe Oklahoma. And then on the defensive side of the ball, they were just, top 5 in the country in sacks and tackles for loss. So both of those lines of scrimmage are going to be just fine. And I think, that's something where maybe people could have said, okay, look at this. I think they're going to be just fine.
Yeah.
So I want to jump in, and the other main topic I want to talk about here is Florida State, because obviously everybody knows what happened last year. They go 13-0. Jordan Travis gets injured. They miss out on going to the college football playoff. Whether you disagree or you agree with it, either way, they play Georgia. Almost everybody sits out, and everybody saw them just, they got whooped by Georgia. It's basically second and third string team, and they got absolutely boat raced. But they come back. They lose a lot, but you bring in a guy like DJU. Like, is this going to be a rebuild for Florida State, or did they do enough in the portal? Do they have enough coming back where, like, are they going to be able to go to that 12-team playoff?
Yeah. So it is going to be interesting because that team, as we know, was just so good, right? And it is a shame that they weren't able to play and compete for national championship and be in a playoff. And, I think the fact that was taken away was, just shameful in the way that how we handled that as a college football family. But yeah, lost a lot of talent, right? Like they had double-digit guys drafted. What an amazing accomplishment that was. There's going to be a lot of new faces, at some really key position, quarterback being the one. And, I thought the interesting thing at first, when that news broke that DJ Uiagalelei was going to be back in the ACC, he was going to be at Florida State, was that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't fit. What are we doing? What are we talking about? But then I kind of took a breath and was like, well, hold on a minute. I'm now putting Coach Norvell in this box that he can only play and win, with a little mobile quarterback that can, be a magician. And that's not the case. That guy is a genius. He's going to run the best offense that DJ can execute. And I think, quite frankly, we're going to see the best version of DJ like we did against Notre Dame back in 2020, like we did against Boston College, where he was lighting it up. And, I think another thing that's going to be a little bit, kind of undervalued right now is that player to coach helmet communication or coach to player, where he can be in his ear and saying, hey, don't forget about this. Here's this. Okay. We're maybe it's third down, just little tips to calm a guy down right then and there. Doesn't have to wait for a timeout. Doesn't have to wait till something bad happens. They get to the sideline. They can address it right then and there. I think that's going to be huge.
What's the cutoff on the comms on that? Is it like the NFL where it's like 15 seconds? Okay.
So you got to get in and get out. But a lot of these teams play so fast, man. 15 seconds, they might be snapping the ball. So you got to have to manage it that way too. So I think they do, take a step back. I don't think we're going back-to-back undefeated regular seasons. And it's a tough schedule. So, it'll be interesting to see. But I think at this point, Coach Norvell has earned the benefit of the doubt. I think these guys, this culture that he's established where they should be there, trying to defend their crown in Charlotte back-to-back seasons.
I think one of the big keys for me is Trey Benson was such a reliable running back for them. Yeah. And they had so many playmakers across the offensive side. You had Jaheim Bell, you had Keon Coleman, you had Johnny Wilson. You had just dudes on that offensive side of the ball. And when you have that many, it's hard to replace every single one. You can go to the portal, you can get guys, and they did go and get guys. But getting that talent of guys is few and far between. And, I'll be interested to see how they adjust because, year to year, they're not going to try to play the same exact style. Jordan Travis is not the same player as DJU. So you have to adjust that. So I'm very curious to see how they adjust the offense for DJU and the players that are going to be on that offensive side of the ball.
And I think that's the biggest key too, Jake, is so last year they brought in a lot of players with Keon Coleman, with Jaheim Bell through the transfer portal, but they had Jordan Travis, who'd already been there a few years. They already have their nucleus intact. This year they don't. DJU is new too. So who is going to step up and be that leader? I mean, none of these guys have played with each other. So you're essentially, obviously, you're seniors, juniors, whatever, you're graduate students. But you've only played with each other a year. So you're essentially freshmen in that aspect, that you're meeting new faces. You're throwing for the first time. The timing is going to be different, which all these players now with the funding that they get, they're able to travel during dead periods and do their own thing. And they go work out together out in California with a specialized coach, something that some people weren't able to do that back in the day. So I'm very curious to see who steps up because I think that's what lacked from DJU at Clemson. You didn't have that verbal leader while he was there. It didn't seem that way from an outsider's perspective. Who was the leader of that offense? Then he goes to Oregon State and you're like, well, what's he playing? The stats are kind of the same. Now he comes back to Florida State and you have a guy in Mike Norvell, like Mac is saying, who has a pedigree, who's been able to develop at least one quarterback with Jordan Travis. What can you do with this guy who has, no offense to Jordan Travis, but DJU has so much more talent than Jordan Travis has, it's at least in his arm. So we'll see what the mental makeup is. I mean, Jordan Travis, DJU could throw the ball 100 yards. He could throw it anywhere on the field. The problem is mentally and mechanics. Can he be consistent down after down after down?
Yeah. And I think to kind of touch on the playmaker deal, it's going to look different, right? Like they're going to run the football. This is their best offensive line. You've got your Lawrence Toafili coming back, who was the ACC Championship game MVP. That they added some great guys. I've got my little cheat sheet pulled up here. Malik Benson and Jalen Lucas, who just get them the ball, right? Is it jet sweeps? Is it screen passes? Is it play action over the top? Lucas at Indiana, I mean, he got the ball a plethora of different ways. I think he's just a touch count guy. Like, how can we get him double-digit touches a game, however we have to, whether that's handing it to him, throwing it to him, snapping it to him, whatever it looks like. And then, DJU in the power game too. Like, he has got to be an effective runner. He has that slow counter, that power where he can read and, kind of putting his foot in the ground and go. So I think this offense looks dramatically different, but that doesn't mean it's not going to be very effective. And with the defense that, I expect them to have, especially in the secondary, not just be kind of suffocating and not triple option enough where you're playing keep away, but one of those things where, hey, if they get up a couple scores, look out, you might not get the ball back.
Yeah. And Mac, we got to touch one more aspect with Florida State. Obviously this is annoying at this point. It's pestering. We're in the dead period of college football. This is when most people talk. We're anticipating it. It's coming next month, but there's nothing going on, and there's not many sports going on. There's not the NBA playoffs. There's not the NHL playoffs.
It's the worst time of the year.
So all we hear about is conference realignment, and specifically Florida State. Does Florida State have a new home or a projected new home by the end of July?
Yeah. I haven't heard anything new, and if they do, it's been kept under very, secret wraps. I
thought you were included in all the meetings.
Yeah, right. Well, maybe that's the thing. There's nothing going on, man. There's nothing happening. Yeah. We're looking. It'll be hard to say. I don't think so, man. I think that with all these court cases, Jake, you and I were talking before we hit record there. This is going to take some time. I mean, there's a lot of decisions to be made. There's a lot that is going on. And quite frankly, I do not think that, let's just call it what it is, the SEC or the Big Ten is just extending offers when they don't know what kind of baggage is coming with that. I don't think they're sending out invitations until they know this is cut, clean, and dry. You're in or you're out. What's the deal? So I think it's going to take some time. So as much as Noel Nation would love that, maybe they do, maybe they don't. I don't think we're getting any announcement anytime in the near future.
The next thing I want to touch on here is because for whatever reason, at least when I look at the ACC, seems like everybody's got a new quarterback with the exception of a handful of teams. We talked about DJU, but you got Grayson McCall, who was at Coastal Carolina for 50 years, just now at NC State. You got Max Johnson at North Carolina. You got Kyle McCord that started Ohio State, that's now at Syracuse. And I'm sure there's a plethora of other Tyler Shuck from
Cam Ward at Miami.
Cam Ward at Miami. It just seems like there's a lot of movement this year, when at least to the ACC, in regards to starting quarterbacks that transferred in. And how do you think that impacts? And do you even know who everybody is yet?
Only if I have my rosters printed out and right, which is crazy, right? It is insane to kind of sit here and think about that. But I think some of those guys that you mentioned, I mean, they're game breakers. I mean, that's a big deal. You look at Miami and Cam Ward and what he's going to bring to the table. That dude is as dynamic as it gets with his arm, with his legs. I would love to clean up the turnovers. I'm sure he will, but that's something where, okay, you take really seriously, and the hype that comes with that. You look at Kyle McCord to Syracuse. That dude led Ohio State to 11 wins, over 3,000 passing yards. Like, he is a baller. And, I think with the fresh start, with the weapons that Syracuse does have, specifically tight end Aronde Gaston Jr. or the second, he's going to be a guy that instantly juices up, Syracuse and is able to take them to another level. Now, what does that look like? I'm not sure. I hope at the end of the day, it's a full season worth of production, because what we usually see from Syracuse is a great start, a ranked start where you're undefeated and top of the country. Then it fizzles out. Clemson. Yeah, well, never once in 100 years, but to keep that longevity. So, what does it look like for some of these guys? Malik Murphy at Duke. Obviously,
that's another one I forgot about.
Yeah, it's stepping into some big shoes there with Riley Leonard and the things that he was able to accomplish. But it kind of gives you a little bit of oomph, when you're talking about these guys, and you get excited to see what they can do and what they can bring to the table.
Speaking of Riley Leonard, what is Notre Dame's obsession with North Carolina? So they pull Sam Hartman out of Wake Forest, North Carolina guy. They pull Riley Leonard out of Duke, North Carolina guy. What are they doing? And honestly, not to derail the quarterback conversation, but I feel like Riley Leonard and Sam Hartman's years are swapped. So I feel like last year – they didn't have a receiver who existed on that offense, and they have Sam Hartman, who's supposed to be this pro-style great passer.
Yeah.
Now this year they've got some guys. They picked up Bo Collins. Jaden Greathouse is in his second year. Mitch Evans is back from his injury and hopefully has a full season. They've got weapons now, but now you go to Riley Leonard, who's not a specialist. And he's more of a mobile guy. He would have went perfectly with Audric Estime in that offense. Like, that sucks. I feel like they're both a year off on each other.
Yeah. That's what happens when you have too much money. You don't know what to do with it. You just start throwing it at guys. Say, hey, come play.
Come on.
But good for them. But yeah, it is weird. They can't just recruit and develop their own QB. It's kind of strange. Kind of weird.
I think out of the transfer quarterbacks, Malik Murphy, I think Cam Ward, I think, is the most interesting because he's got like the highest ceiling, but he's also got like one of the lowest floors as well because he might throw 4 interceptions in a game, but he also might score 5 touchdowns at the same time.
Yeah. He is being robust.
Malik Murphy, we saw him in very limited action after Quinn Ewers got hurt. And I thought that it was just interesting he ended up at Duke because it felt like he could have got to a lot bigger programs and could have competed at some of these larger programs. And, he ended up going to Duke with Manny Diaz. And, I mean, great for Manny Diaz.
There was a relationship there. He and Manny knew each other for a long time. So I think that was kind of – once Manny got the job, he was like, okay, Duke has guys in the NFL. Duke develops quarterbacks. Is that somewhere where I can come back and make something happen in the ACC? So I agree with you. When it happened, I was like, what? Who? Where? But certainly I think it just proves that even in a day and age where, money is king, relationships, man, they still matter a ton.
So Manny Diaz, who is infamous or famous, depending on who you talk to, for the one they're recruiting and NIL parties on the yachts in Miami. So now he's in Durham. Is he going to have
they're doing study parties?
I was going to say, it's big study hall, baby. It's study parties.
Hospital helicopters. Hospital helicopters are going to be throwing some big parties on some hospital helicopters up in the
medical
triangle.
Whatever it takes. We're making that. And I know we're kind of joking about it, but same thing with Kyle McCord and Syracuse. I mean, that was a relationship-based thing where, Brown, Coach Fran Brown has, known him since he was like in Pee Wee. And once he got the job, it's just one of those things, man. You pick up the phone and say, hey, here I am. Would love to have you. And, you just trust those guys and you build that over time. And it's going to be fascinating to see what both of those situations look like.
And Fran Brown and Manny Diaz are also excellent recruiters. And I don't think the layman college football fan knows enough about Fran Brown. But what he was able to do at Georgia and some of the guys, I mean, he was almost every year was like the number 1 recruiter in the nation on that staff. I mean, this dude is an excellent recruiter. And shout out to the college football dynasty. He would have got that trait, even the recruiter trait. So now we get to see full force. Is he able to motivate? Is he able to build a roster? And you go and get a guy like Kyle McCord who's got some name to him. I mean, he's got Manny Diaz, the same thing. You go get a big name guy like Blake Murphy. Duke might become a decent program. I mean, they have the ability.
No, and they proved that, right? 2 years ago with what they were able to do with, Coach Elko in their first year and just exploding, beating Clemson on Monday night last year. And, just to touch on Fran Brown again, Coach Fran Brown, I love what he said. We spoke to him. And again, I keep referencing these episodes that are coming out soon, but
shout out to
right here.
Max much. Sorry, I just stuttered.
But, my favorite quote from the entire episode was, Coach Kirby Smart taught me big people hurt little people, and I'm going to go get a bunch of big people. And that's what he's done. I mean, you look at the size of the transfers and the high school recruits he has coming in. It's like the minimum is 6'6", 330. Like that's the baseline of where we start. So he has some monsters coming into, New York there, central New York.
Yeah, I remember because I went to school at Temple, and when I was at Temple, that's when Fran Brown was Matt Rule's guy. After Rule left, there was a lot of people that wanted Fran Brown, even though he was young, to become the next head coach at Temple. But there was just a little too much of like is he too young? He followed Rule to Baylor, ended up coming back for a minute, but then left. And it's no surprise to me because we heard all the rumors of how great he was and how great he was at building relationships. And, any kid that was not basically going to like Penn State out of the Philly area or any bigger was going to Temple, and he recruited some of the best guys.
Look who we got. We got PJ Walker, Hassan Reddick, Robbie Anderson. I mean,
Hassan Reddick was actually a walk-on, funny enough.
That is insane.
Yeah, Hassan Reddick was a walk-on at Temple. And and ended up obviously becoming a first-round pick and was just an absolute monster. But
Walk-on
I mean, on that defense was Tyler Medikevich, who had like 500 tackles in college.
Yeah.
Like he was
that was before the COVID extra year too. That's like a legit 500.
Yeah,
tackle.
he was like a 4-year middle linebacker starter, 100 tackles a year kind of guy.
The G5 Luke Kuechly.
Yeah,
like
seriously,
he was a beast. And the 2015 season was the year Temple actually was like really, really good, competed with Notre Dame, went down to the wire with them before Notre Dame ended up scoring with Will Fuller at the very end. And like he was legit, had a great defense. That's what they did. They played great defense. And so seeing Fran Brown, what he's doing here, getting Kyle McCord up there, like you have an established guy. You don't have to worry about doing a quarterback competition. You only got to go and try to figure out who do you know. You having that kind of rapport is incredible for your first year as a head coach.
Yeah, I think gone are the days of the top heaviness of the ACC. I mean, look at all the teams we've named that are potential contenders. I mean, and you look at like NC State, we haven't even touched yet. And they have a guy in Casey Concepcion, who's one of the best playmakers in the country, let alone the ACC, with Grayson McCall. And they also have the 74th easiest schedule. Like I think NC State is in a really good spot to be last year's Louisville team, like a team that has a good roster, easy schedule, and then just ends up, hey, now we're in the ACC Championship game. I mean, NC State's toughest game, I think they play Clemson, and I think they played Notre Dame. But other than that, it's nothing.
Yeah, and, it's time. At Tennessee, they play Tennessee and Charlotte.
Tennessee.
But that won't count towards the ACC Championship game.
Yeah, right. They should sleepwalk to 10 wins. And I mean that with all due respect. But, like, let's do it. It's time to hit that double-digit mark. You added so much talent from the transfer portal. Jordan Waters from Duke, grown man, running back. Joe Lee, who came in at wide receiver, is a freak show. And then, just a couple other talented guys, man, that are really exciting, to see how they play. You got a transfer from Notre Dame on the offensive line. I think NC State's going to be really good. And you're right. They're absolutely have the potential to be the Louisville of last year.
Yeah, NC State, they got a transfer from Ohio State, Noah Rogers, who there was a lot of rumors that he was a freaky athlete up here. It was just, sorry, there's no room to play because you're behind.
There's 7 other first-round draft picks.
Yeah, and he's from there, so it's like I'm excited to see what he does with Grayson McCall because you have a legit quarterback down there. It's not like he's going to have some scrub throwing to him, some first-year guy. Grayson McCall's been playing for since the COVID year, and he's going to have Noah Rogers is a big dude, freaky athlete.
Right. And I mean, we saw clips coming out of the spring. I mean, this guy's making crazy. I think in the spring game itself, he had like 155 yards, something nuts. I mean, that is going to be exciting for Wolfpack fans everywhere. Just to see that. You add Hollywood in as well from Oklahoma. He's coming back home at the running back position. I mean, they loaded up in the portal and got some really extraordinary playmakers.
Yeah. So speaking of playmakers, we've talked a lot about the quarterbacks. We've talked about McCord. We talked about Cam Ward, Malik Murphy. Are there anybody else that maybe are non-quarterbacks that you're seeing that maybe are flying under the radar that people need to know about?
Great question. 17 teams, one guy per. No, I'm kidding. When you look at it, I'll give you a whole position group. I think Clemson's defensive line is absolutely back. I mean, I think those guys are, kind of the days of the D-line U days where you just see some freak nasties. Looks like, old number 11 is going to lose some weight and move out to defensive end, kind of like Christian Wilkins did back in 2017 year. So that'll be exciting. Yeah.
Have you seen him play end yet?
No, I haven't. But I have to imagine he's just a monster.
I went to a practice during spring ball to the alumni event. When I tell you they tried to double team him, and he put both guys in the backfield, and then they had to chip him with the tight end, and you can't run his way. That dude is so strong. He reminds me of he's got Dexter Lawrence's strength. The only thing I worry about with Peter Woods is he doesn't have the athleticism I think that Christian Wilkins has. He doesn't have the hip mobility that Christian Wilkins has. He's more of a true 3 technique, whereas Christian Wilkins is just a huge body who can also move very well. But I think Peter Woods running his way is going to be it's not going to happen.
And then you got TJ Parker on the other side, who's just going to turn into a monster. To move to a single digit, which is exciting to see big guys wearing small numbers. And then the linebacker core behind them. I mean, they're going to be really, really good to see that. I think Miami's offensive line is sick. You look at Francis Mauineau over there, true freshman right tackle. They've got another guy, Sampson, who is a 5-star that redshirted. Now it's his time to shine there. Some really talented guys. They added a center from Indiana that they feel pretty extraordinary about, that can, be kind of a game breaker type guy. And Florida State's defensive line too. I mean, those are kind of the 3 big position groups that I think are going to be super explosive, really exciting, and just make some stuff happen. The other as a whole, and maybe I'm giving you more than you asked here for, but the running back position in the ACC is also just insane. I think it's led by Amarian Hampton at North Carolina, who I thought should have been the Doak Walker last year easily. I mean, that's a guy that had 298 carries or something of that nature, 1,600 yards, all these different touchdowns, all these different touches. You got Martinez now transferred, to Miami, that we saw what he was able to do last year at Oregon State. You got Jaden Ott. That's a monster. There's a lot of guys. I mean, Phil Maffa is now the guy in Clemson. There is a ton of running backs in this league that it's going to be fun to see those guys and just what the production looks like from a running perspective.
One wide receiver that I think is flying under the radar, maybe it's because I just watched a bunch of film, but Daquan Felton out of Virginia Tech, because that is a tall dude who just seems to find the end zone.
Yeah, he really does. And he's his quarterback's best friend. I mean, that helps. And we haven't even talked about Virginia Tech yet. I think that's another dark horse team that could easily get to 10 wins. And, that is probably the most exciting thing about this year is, we've had obviously success with, a team here or there, primarily Florida State, primarily Clemson, and then maybe one other random team per random year. But this year it legitimately feels like there are 5 teams and maybe a 6 on occasion, whoever you want to throw in there as a random 6, whether it's Louisville, Syracuse, SMU, North Carolina, that could be playing in Charlotte and be bidding, for maybe 2 spots in the college football playoff. So that to me is probably the most exciting thing, but obviously it has to translate to the field. And Clemson opens with Georgia. North Carolina State has, Tennessee in week 2. There's a lot of these crossover, type games that you've got to win and you've got to change and shape the narrative accordingly.
One interesting stat that I just looked at. So since 2009, only 1 year has either Clemson or Florida State not played for the ACC Championship.
Yeah. Pitt and Wake Forest.
And 2021, which was weird because Pitt and Wake Forest played for it.
Yeah.
Weird year all around. And not that it would shock me if neither are there, because I do think one of them ends up in there. But it just shows that there's been consistently one really good team, because it's usually either Florida State or Clemson that wins it. And then the other side is, when it was divisions, was just a whole, who knows?
Yeah.
I think at one point it was 7 years, 7 different teams for the other side.
It was. We completed the circle of death. It was fun.
So I still do think either one, Clemson or Florida State, makes it, because they're both incredibly talented, but it just shows that there has been a consistent circle of other teams that have made it up into that threshold.
I think if you pull up in a bar stool next to Bubba Jean at your dive bar in the South, and Bubba you say Clemson, Florida State, Virginia Tech, NC State, or Miami, Bubba Jean's not going to have a big argument saying that they're not going to be able to make it to the ACC Championship. I mean, those are the 5 teams I know for sure have a legitimate shot. Don't sleep on Duke.
Right.
I think Duke has a good shot. I mean, Louisville, we'll see if old Brown can keep them going there. Like, SMU, we don't have any clue what SMU's going to do. Like, I think there's no way to gauge and project what they can do. So you have 2 other teams that are floating around that 5. Like, Bubba Jean's going to be shaking in his denim. He's not ready for the barstool conversation.
That's right. But you gotta do it on the field. And even like, Virginia plays Maryland week 3, like Vandy and maybe Virginia Tech or somebody. You
Miami
just
and Florida.
Miami, Florida week 1.
Week 2. So hold on. Why are we doing this to Miami and Florida? Week 2 at 3:30. You know how hot it's going to be in freaking Gainesville, Georgia?
Just to make them feel it.
We're going to see who survives. I don't care who wins. Whose players are not going to have an IV in themselves at halftime? Like that.
Got to be ready. Hey, they practice in it. It's not like they're coming out of nowhere. Cal plays Auburn week 2, I think it is. They got to travel. Now that's a different game plan. You got to be ready for that.
So I think I know the answer to this, and this is a little bit maybe more off topic, but between Cal and Stanford, because I feel like I need to include the West Coast teams, or else they're going to be annoyed. Between Cal and Stanford, which one actually makes a bowl game this year? Because Cal seems to be at least fine. Stanford just seems like a total rebuild.
I think Stanford has a long way to go. And I love Coach Taylor. I think he is amazing. I had the privilege to, talk to him and chat with him about what he has going on there, and love kind of his mentality, offensive guy that has a very interesting career path. Y'all should go look at that, how he kind of made the decisions that he did and where he decided to go. But I think Cal is in a much better spot. Stanford also had a ton of people leave, right before he got that job. Cal has some legit dudes. They've got a linebacker who was the freshman defensive player of the year in the Pac-12 last year. He's going to be a war daddy. And then when you have Ott that at the running back position that can do everything for you, that they just have more weapons at this time.
Jaden Ott will be a household name for all people on the East Coast if they hadn't heard of him yet this year. The fact that he came back to Cal was that video he posted. I don't know if anybody saw it, but it went pretty viral on Twitter when he was announcing that he was coming back. If you haven't seen it, you need to go find it. It's freaking insane. It got me hyped. I'm like, this is freaking Cal football. Golden Bears, baby. Let's bring it back. Let's get the band on the field.
One team we haven't mentioned, and I don't really want to spend too much time talking about it, was Boston College, because of just how weird the offseason was for them, because Jeff Hafley leaves on his own accord to be an assistant coach in the NFL. They hired Bill O'Brien, who had just accepted a job to be the offensive coordinator at Ohio State, but it was pretty obvious that he was kind of keyed on to be the head coach. And now Bill O'Brien returns to college as a head coach. He was the offensive coordinator at Alabama, and just it seemed like it was a weird offseason for Boston College. And, I don't want to try to put this down, but Boston College is an incredibly tough job. I think Boston College could be one of the 5 or 10 hardest jobs in all of college football.
Yeah, I agree with you. You've got a very small school that is very proud of, their academics and the things that they have going on there. And, it's quite frankly, it's tough, when you're trying to compete at this type of level and you don't have, necessarily the complete buy-in from top to bottom, from president, chancellor, whatever, down board, down to your head coach. So, the good thing is they've got a great quarterback in Tommy Castellanos. That dude is sick. A very electric player. We're going to be down at Florida State week 1 to see them on Monday night. Tommy's coming to town with the boys, feeling really good. So, I think that it's going to be interesting. The good thing is you have that quarterback, and it's not like the staff was fired. It's not like they were in this terrible spot. Coach Hafley just was tired of dealing with this and tired of dealing with this, college world. So he went to the NFL, and there's still a lot of those guys that stayed on this staff. So I think it's going to be fantastic. And just the strength coach that Coach Bill O'Brien was able to bring up from Florida, that's going to be a huge piece of it. You've got development, leadership, all these different qualities that the strength staff is such an instrumental part in, and he got his guy. So I agree with you. Very tough job, but they're in a good spot. I'm not sitting here saying they should win, 8-9 games, but bowling is kind of baseline.
And they'll definitely, like you said, Tommy Castellanos was great last year, and he had some games where you're just like, wow, how did he do that? And he's definitely going to give defenses problems, and they definitely going to need to have some extra focus on him, or else he's going to make some defenses pay.
Well, they got a pretty good receiver from Vanderbilt too. McGovern, I think is his last name. His first name's slipping my mind. I'm just shocked they kept Castellanos. I really am. You have to think his cell phone was blowing up, allegedly.
Allegedly.
Yeah, and no tampering. But you have to think that dude was contacted 1 or 2 times by somebody's second cousin's former roommate, twice removed. Because he can flat out play, and you have to think some offensive coordinator out there was like, I want to see what this guy can do if you have a couple stud wide receivers in a run game with him.
Yeah, and I think it is a big deal. I think it is a big deal that he stayed, that obviously he bought into, the staff, but also Boston College. When your coach left, I thought that was it. Where's he going to end up? Who's he going to be playing for? But he's a super talented guy. Excited to see him in year 2.
So, want to run through who your dark horse is, because I know William's excited about his dark horse. So I'll let him go first because I know he's super pumped.
Well, I've already alluded to I'm not pumped because I don't like him. I can't stand him at all. No bias though. America, love America, but not being biased. Okay. But NC State is my dark horse. To be in the ACC Championship.
I was going to say dark horse for what? We need to specify this.
To be in the ACC Championship, and honestly, to win it.
Okay.
I think if Grayson McCall plays at the same level he was playing at Coastal, I'm getting loud now. I'm getting excited. If Grayson McCall plays at the same level that he did at Coastal, and that people think he can, if Casey Concepcion steps up and takes an even bigger leap than where he was last year. I mean, honestly, guys, I know I'm hyping this guy up, but I think he has a legitimate chance to be a Blitnikoff winner. Like, this dude is a freaking stud. I don't think we understand that. And they have the 74th ranked strength of schedule. They only play Clemson and Tennessee, like that are preseason ranked teams. You never know what's going to happen throughout the year. Strength of schedule before in the preseason doesn't really mean anything besides what we're talking about right now. And then there's no divisions, so you can drop a game to Clemson and still get in there. Like, Clemson has the potential to go undefeated in the ACC. But now you can lose to Clemson. You can lose to somebody and still get in because you just have to be the second best. You don't have to be the best anymore. So NC State, Wolfpack Nation, that's my dark horse.
Come on, I love that, and I love it so much. I don't think that's the dark horse. I don't want to take away anything from your pick, but again, I think those guys sleepwalk to 10 wins.
And the only reason I say dark horse though is because everyone's talking about Clemson, Florida State, Miami, and then some people were like, "Oh, Virginia Tech's the dark horse," but I don't think anybody's saying any outside of the ACC. Anybody's saying anything about NC State, and I'm like, hold on.
I hear you. I don't think that's right.
But I do understand why you're saying.
Yeah, and just when you have these guys stepping up too. I mean, we keep talking about KC. He had to legit do everything for NC State last year. I mean, he was throwing it, running it, catching it. They've added pieces around him. I think that's only going to help him because now you can't double team him. You can't put cloud coverage over the top. You can't just track him and follow him around everywhere he goes because there's other guys that are going to need to be paid attention to. And you've got a point guard in Grayson McCall that we've all talked about here that knows how to distribute, knows how to get the ball out quick. I'm with you. I think that's a great pick because I easily could see them being in Charlotte, easily could see them winning it. I'm going to go true dark horse, and we talked about them a lot. I'm going Syracuse. I think they can make some moves. I think that when you see what they're going to be able to do with their quarterback, bringing him in, and Kyle is a beast, man. That dude is really, really good, and I think the talent around him is a little underappreciated. I think he can help them kind of take it to another level. I think that you see McCord kind of raise the water and all ships kind of rise with him. I think the defense is going to be tenacious. We're going to see different body types than we're used to seeing at Syracuse. And they've got a shot, man, to now that, again, this is dark horse. That's what we're talking about. I think Syracuse is that.
I don't hate that pick, especially when you look at their schedule. They avoid Florida State. They avoid Clemson. They have Miami the very last game of the year at home.
Right.
Other than that, you have Virginia Tech at home. You've got NC State away. I mean, other than that, every game, like, there's no reason why they don't waltz into 8 wins. Like, they should sleepwalk to 8 wins without question.
Yeah.
Because
lock them in the dome, baby. Let's go.
You've got Ohio, Holy Cross, UNLV, UConn. That should be 4 wins without even missing a beat. Stanford is not going to be good. Boston College should be a win. Cal probably.
Is it at Stanford?
It is home, so they don't have to travel across the country.
Dude, these guys don't go away until they go to Vegas on October 4th. They just stay at home. They're just never going to leave.
And, like, their away games are not super difficult. Like, away at UNLV, NC State away is, difficult, but Pitt might not be that good this year. Away at Boston College, we'll see. We talked about them, but they might have their season basically wrapped up at that point.
Right. And in terms of travel, that's a jump, hop, and a skip.
Away at Cal in November might be great because it actually might not be freezing cold. Now, granted, Berkeley, it's not Southern California, but, like, I don't hate that pick at all because, I mean, with how the conference is, you might be able to go 9-3 and make the championship game.
Sure. Sure. Which would be a disaster for the ACC.
It would be a disaster. It would be an absolute disaster.
They're a bid stealer. They're a bid stealer.
That away game at UNLV is interesting because Barry Odom put together a really good team with UNLV last year. It'd be interesting to see how that shakes out.
Hey. We don't care about UNLV. We're not. Don't this is the Pac-12. Hey. All right, we're not talking about UNLV ruining seasons.
I'm taking Virginia. I'm taking Virginia Tech as mine. Because I kind of alluded to this, but between Jones and why am I blanking on Felton? Between Jones and Felton, I love that combo. I've watched a lot of highlights of them the last couple of days. And
here's the deal: y'all both are picking people in the Big Five. That's not a dark horse. We all know about it. We all know about this.
Nobody's talking about Virginia Tech. Their over under for wins is 7.5,
which is insane to me. Insane.
Vegas saying 7.5, and I love that over. If I'm a betting man, I'm going to bet the over on Virginia Tech because I look at this and you go Vandy, Marshall, Old Dominion, Rutgers to start the season. That's 4 wins before they go to Miami. Then you get Stanford, Boston College, Georgia Tech. If they don't have 7 wins by the end of October, they are screwed up and the season's a failure.
Yeah. You know, and that Miami game, is that a Thursday or Friday night? That's not a Saturday, is it?
I believe it's a Friday night game.
Yeah.
There's nobody gonna be in the stands anyways.
Yeah. Maybe.
I'm gonna let you bully me, Matt. I'm gonna let you bully me.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with a true dark horse.
There we go.
I'll flip it. And I'm going SMU. I'm going with an actual horse.
I think SMU is a more obvious pick than Virginia Tech. Oh, there's
Think about this though. When Missouri and Texas A&M came into the SEC, how long did it take Missouri to get in that SEC championship game? Was it not year one?
One year.
That exact
A&M
year.
still hasn't made it.
All right, but all right. So Cal and Stanford are the A&M. We can put them off to the side. SMU is our Missouri, and I honestly like if we want to go dark horse. They have the 83rd ranked schedule in the country. You want to talk about an easy schedule? SMU has an easy schedule. Yeah. So if they're going to prove it, this is the year to do it. And it's the first year. So you know what? If you want me to go true dark horse outside of the top 5, Mac, I'll do it for you. Jake, I'm sorry I cut you off. You were explaining yourself. I got really excited when
I think SMU is a more obvious pick. I think there's a lot of people saying they might win double digits. Like everybody's saying,
Virginia
Tech wins like 7 or 8 games.
Well, no, I think Vegas has them winning 7.5. Yeah, Vegas has them winning 7.5.
SMU's a better pick. That's a great pick. It's a G5 team, man. Come on. That's a good
I'm going SMU. I'm locking it in.
Fine.
He'll allow it.
You can have your SMU pick, even though I think that's a little too obvious. After they won 11 games last year.
In the group of 5. You can't get rid of my NC State.
They did lose to Boston College in the Fenway Bowl.
They did.
Allegedly. That spin move, Jake. You got to remember the spin move.
That was a deadly spin move in there. If you haven't seen it, you need to go look it up because the man pressed the B button about 3 seconds too early.
Yeah, the receiver for SMU, I don't know who you're spinning, Jake. I think you had 16 million views on that tweet.
Something like that.
The sickest spin move of the college football season. Put the man in the spin cycle. No one was there. Hey, you know what? He was spinning out Monte Te'o's girlfriend. I'm bringing that joke back.
ACC. I do want to spend. Speaking of, I do want to spend 1 minute talking about Notre Dame because they are basically an affiliate. Not basically are. They are an affiliate team, and they play 6 ACC teams every year, and we have to fit them into somewhere. So with Notre Dame, it being a different year for them because they do bring back. They bring in Riley Leonard. They redo the offense. They lose both offensive tackles. They had a really good defense last year. It felt like they might put something together. Do you think Notre Dame is on the verge of the playoff this year, or do you think it's going to be just on the outside looking in?
Unfortunately, I'm not the guy to ask about this because I think absolutely not. No way. I think they get smoked against Texas A&M. I think they get smoked against Florida State, USC, all these guys, man. I am a Notre Dame hater, unfortunately. So you're getting biased reaction here. Do not take anything I'm saying seriously, but I do love Riley. Riley Leonard's my guy.
There you go.
I was excited to see him there. Clemson graduate Bo Collins is there playing wide receiver. So that they're like an ACC offset team. Just sign the conference, sign the deal, and come on in.
They're having their cake and eating it too. They've got their beautiful wife, and they have a hall pass that the wife doesn't know about with the ACC, and they just need to make it. They just need to make a decision. And I thought with this whole playoff thing, where like you are eligible to get a bye if you're in the Power Four, I thought that would be enough to get them in. No.
Yeah.
No.
It's gonna be interesting to see.
Yeah, I'm not super sold on him. I'm not a huge Riley Leonard guy. I think he's good, but he struggles to stay healthy because of how he plays. And like
physical
if he goes down, like all bets are off, and I think it can go bad. I think Notre Dame's defense.
Well, they've got their lacrosse player. They could just throw back at.
No, he plays wide receiver now.
Oh, he's a receiver.
No, he does not. Oh,
yes, he transitioned to wide receiver.
This is a true journeyman.
This man's last year has been quarterback at Notre Dame to quarterback at Alabama to lacrosse player at Notre Dame to now wide receiver at Notre Dame.
And now he's a receiver.
He's just the definition of a journeyman.
Good thing Bill Belichick retired, because that dude had a 6th-round draft pick for the Patriots written all over him.
Well, Bill Belichick has come out of retirement. Which one?
What was the guy's name that played in the NFL who was a lacrosse player?
Chris Hogan.
God, Jake, you're the man. You saved me.
Only reason I know is because the Super Bowl against the Eagles.
They said it 4,000 times.
I won so much money because I just kept betting that he would hit the over, and as it updated, I would continue betting the over because he just kept getting the ball. I just kept making money because this over-under started the game with like 30 yards, and he finished with like 140.
That's my boy.
That's some insane number.
Chris Brogan.
So, before we finish up here, I do want to get picks for championship game, because obviously there is no divisions this year, but there's 85 teams. So trying to figure out who's actually going to make it and tiebreakers. And I'm sure you probably are going to have to learn all the tiebreakers are this year, because if 4 or 5 teams are sitting there, it's not no longer head to head. It's this and then that. And then we go to this one and you skip 3 and go to 5.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be interesting. You know what's fascinating? I've not thought about this 1 second leading into it.
Perfect. We get your first prediction of the year.
You're getting it. You're getting the raw live prediction. I think it's going to be really hard for Miami and for NC State not to do that, not to pull it off, make it there. 2 teams that I don't think have an ACC. I know Miami doesn't have one. I don't think NC State has an ACC championship game championship.
Will Cristobal knee the ball if he's winning with less than a minute left and the other team doesn't have any timeouts?
We're running.
Let's run it, baby. Let's get our guy 100 yards.
Monsters back there. We don't have guys that drop the ball. I think that's where I'm leaning right now. It'll be interesting to see what I say at Media Day, because I know that's going to be asked a million times at the end of the July. But
you can tell them to refer to this podcast.
Yeah, I'll just say go watch. I already said it. Go check it out.
There we go. Shout out.
Where you at, Will? Have you picked yet?
So I'm like you. I thought of who I thought was going to win the whole thing, and I thought of a dark horse. You're right. I've not thought of who I've got in second. So
your dark horse, NC State. I just made them in the game.
Yeah, you got me to switch to the SMU. Go Stangs. I think Clemson's going to be there. I think, and yes, I reminded y'all at the beginning, I'm not biased. I have my American flag shirt on. I have Clemson paraphernalia littered throughout my household, and I did not wear it just for you. However, I have to tell the truth to the people. And the reason I think Clemson has a really good shot, Mac, you talked about it earlier, the defensive line. Not only the defensive line, but the depth at linebacker, the depth at defensive back. That defense, we have guys that can come in and play. Jaden Lucas, who a lot of people don't know about yet, 6'2" cornerback, former 4- to 5-star guy out of Malden, South Carolina, is slated to start this year. Avion Terrell, who everyone probably does know about, Khalil Barnes, Peter Woods, TJ Parker, Devontae Capehart, he's like a Ruka Rororo who's going to shoot up draft boards this year. Yeah. The defense is stout. Wade Woodaz, Barrett Carter.
I was going to say, you didn't even mention the All-American, man, Barrett Carter.
Right. So, the defense is there. The offense, however, which has been the biggest question mark the past 4 years, Cade's in his second year. This is his first time having the same offense coordinator 2 years in a row. This is his second year starting, and he's going to have a stable of healthy wide receivers. This is the first time coming into fall camp that everybody is healthy. Troy Salato is not hurt. Adam Randall doesn't have a broken hand finally. Cole Turner's back. Antonio Williams is back and healthy. You got
touchdown
Bryant
Tyler
Wesco.
Brown. You mentioned our best
Touchdown
guy.
Tyler Brown. You got exactly. You got Bryant Wesco, who's already put on 15 pounds and came in at 170. He's at 185 now, and like this dude can freaking ball. I spoke to the player personnel guy, Mike Dooley, there while I was there in the spring, and maybe I shouldn't show this, but he said, William, there's some guys who walk in here and they're just different. Bryant Wesco is different. And I don't even think he's the best freshman receiver that we have coming in this year. We also have TJ Moore, who is a freak. So Phil Moffitt is a really good running back. You got Jay Haynes, who's a backup. You have Keith Adams, who's been playing fullback too, guys. Go watch the Kentucky game. The dude plays running back and fullback. This dude just wants to win freaking football games. And the entire offensive line played with each other last year. And we have Matt Luke. Again, guys, I'm not trying to be biased. Are we
back? Are we back, Will? Come on.
I am inside of the Kool-Aid Man's picture. I am completely in. I'm stained. Ooh, yeah. Kick down the door. So Clemson's in there. I have Clemson winning it. Spoiler alert.
I love that. Do we beat Georgia? Do you have us beat
We beat Georgia. We beat Georgia. I was looking at Georgia.
What's the score? Give me a score right now.
I'm holding you to the score, by the way, 7 weeks from now.
21-10.
Okay.
21-10. We get a pick six. We get a pick six.
Pick six to start it off. That gets the train
That's going to be the first one. That's going to be the first one.
Yeah.
Carson Beck is going to get sacked inside of their red zone. So we give Kate a short field. And then Phil Moffitt is the polisher at 21 to put the game away. It's 21. It's 14-10. It's a struggle. Phil Moffitt puts on a clinic.
Caps it off.
Runs the clock out. Caps it off. Ball game. Tigs by 100. Okay,
I'm so excited right now. I can't
wait. Dude,
so
I'm not even going to go down that path. But Clemson versus
I thought you said NC State or SMU.
Those are my dark horses.
Both of them.
I'm going Miami.
You.
I think
literally what I was about to take, and you took my.
I'm sorry. I think Cam Ward. I believe in Cam Ward. I know a lot of people talk about the turnover problems. I think he's able to fix that. And then honestly, I think Mario Cristobal has a lot of pressure because this is his prove-it year. This is probably the most talented roster he's had since he's been there. This is probably the most talented roster since the early 2000s. I mean, Ruben Bain is a stud on defense. Do not forget about him. Cam Ward is a playmaker. And he's going from Washington State, which no offense to Washington State, but there's a reason you're in the Pac-2 and not in the Big 10 or the Big 12. And now you have dudes. South Florida is a hotbed of talent. So if they're going to do it, it's going to be this year. Clemson beats Miami in the ACC Championship. I'm sorry, guys that are listening. That was a long answer. Very Clemson leaning. I'm not biased, though. American flag shirt for people podcasting. So this is the truth. Sorry, Jake.
You took mine. I'm not going to talk on Clemson as much, but I do think they lose to Georgia in the first game of the season.
Don't even put that in the universe.
I think 10-2 with a loss in the season in the conference, because that's only one loss. I mean, all you got to do is win the conference and you make it the playoff. You got to remember, it's like, keep it simple. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. And I think that they beat either NC State or Florida State. I don't think there's really any other games on that schedule, especially in conference, that they can lose to. I talked about Virginia Tech. I could see that happening. But Wake Forest, Virginia, Louisville, Cal, Stanford, like those, they're going to win those games. Like those are, should be wins. And then maybe they prove me wrong. Maybe they win all of those. I do think they lose at Georgia because it's in Atlanta, and that Kirby Smart just has a powerhouse of a team down there, but that game's not going to matter. I just think that Dabo's not going to miss the ACC championship this year. And then I like Miami. I've been on Cam Ward since he was transferring out of Incarnate Word, whatever it is. I have the receipts for it. I have the receipts when he's coming out about talking about how good I thought he was going to be. And he spent 2 years at Washington State, and getting Damian Martinez, I think, is a very underrated move that's not being talked about enough because of how good he was at Oregon State. I think it's very interesting that the star quarterback goes to Miami and the star quarterback goes to Florida State and the running back goes to Miami.
Right.
Just interesting that the backfield's basically split between two rivals. And I think there's enough playmakers on this team. I think they return enough. And Mario Cristobal, that seat's going to get warm if he doesn't start making moves. They paid a lot of money to get him there. They put a lot of resources and time. He was supposed to be the savior coming home. And the last 2 years really haven't been it. So I think that he's starting to feel the heat and it's time to turn it up. First game at Florida, really interesting, except I think Florida's not going to be very good. I think Florida's going to win like 3 games. But the fact that they opened the year and the last time that they opened the year, Felipe Franks thought that he was like God's gift to earth and got benched like a couple weeks later. So Miami also doesn't have a very difficult schedule. They got Florida State. They've got Virginia Tech. But other than that, like, maybe Virginia Tech or maybe Georgia Tech makes some moves. Syracuse at the end of the year. But other than that, like the schedule sets up pretty well for both of those teams to face off, at the beginning of December.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be fascinating.
Anything else that either of you want to add?
I hope everything that William just said about Clemson is true. I can't wait.
Nostradamus. You heard it here first. I might be the only person picking Clemson over Georgia. So ride with me.
No, there'll be somebody else. There'll be somebody else.
They're following in my footsteps. I'm putting this out in the universe now.
Hey, Carson Beck is distracted. Carson Beck's got a girlfriend now. He's distracted. Yep. He's not ready for the game.
Don't even make me. Trevor Etienne should be playing for Mike Gundy based on his driving record. I don't know if y'all saw what Mike Gundy said today. Maybe this is too soon. But
yeah, Ollie Gordon should be transferring to Georgia. Georgia loves having traffic-related incidents.
I stand on business, Jake.
Right. Eric, you want to plug all your stuff real quick?
Yeah, man, I appreciate you. Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure to join you guys. As I've been saying 100 times, we've got a ton of coaching and our own ACC preview. 17 episodes, 17 head coaches, 17 previews coming out starting the end of July. You're going to want to check it out. YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Gramlich and Mac Lain, and then ACC Network, man. We're on and kicking it. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're doing those summer tours ourselves where we get to go to each and every stop on site. Y'all won't want to miss that. So appreciate you guys having me.
Guys, absolutely. Just to add, let me glaze Mac a little bit. Like, their content is excellent. This isn't just like, if you watch Gramlich and Mac Lain on the YouTube, go watch the Tyler Brown. I mean, they're asking him and they're covering the catch. You're hearing his thought process during the catch. And if you're a Clemson guy, you know exactly what that is. But it's the catch against Georgia Tech, the one-hander where he caught it on his fingertips. They got Peyton Wilson from last year from NC State. It's not just Clemson guys. Even though they're both Clemson grads, they do a really, really good job of covering the entirety of the ACC. And guys, that fall camp preview that they do when they go to all the different camps, you get to see a lot of college football that you normally wouldn't see. You're seeing the practice facilities. You're talking to the coaches. You're talking to the star players off the practice field. Guys, these guys aren't PR'd up. They just got off from being high T, hitting people, ready to roll. You're getting some really good content. So, Mac, just to give you a little bit extra boost, for what it's worth from a walk-on, I love your content.
It's worth the most, man. I appreciate you, brother.
Make sure to go check out all of his stuff. Make sure to go check out the Walk-On Redshirts, walkonredshirts.com, Walk-On Redshirts on Twitter, Instagram, and William at Walk-On Boost on just about everything. Make sure. Well, I would plug our classes, but we're out. So after we get more, we'll make sure that we get them out there. They'll be for sale. We don't try to make money on them. I just try to get them out to everybody because they're cool. Appreciate everybody following. Make sure to rate, listen, subscribe, and we'll be back next week with Big 12. I think that's what we're doing, right?
Big 12.
Yeah, Big 12 next week. Big 12 with 4 new teams as well. So appreciate everybody. We'll be back next week.